sympathizer, also joined Factory's inner circle. The gang was complete. He immediately surprised everyone. He wanted Joy Division to make their first album with Wilson rather than pursue a deal with Warner's that would have given the band a healthy advance and a bigger profile. This would make Factory a real record label.
That moment was the moment when British independent record companies became real companies, when the idea was to stay with your label, not to sign to some major.
Everybody did it. I mean, the Beatles, whack, you know, fine, Fab Four, out at Liverpool, and the first thing they do is go down the motorway and, you know, doing the music business establishment. Yeah, we'll buy Liverpool, they'll come back and start college one day. No, we wanted to stay in Manchester. Why should we? I mean that was part of the punk thing. Why have we got to go to Richard Branson? We can do it here. We can do it just as well, if not better.
There was another unforeseen development. Joy Division's Ian Curtis was diagnosed as suffering from severe epilepsy and put on powerful but primitive medication. He was barely in his 20s.
The doctor said to him, I want you to be quiet, I want you to take it easy, no late nights, no alcohol, and no drugs. And he said, what do you do, by the way? And he went, oh, I'm a librarian. No, I'm lead singer in a, you know, post-punk rock band. He didn't have much chance, really, did he?
This is the room, the start of it all. No portraits so fine, only sheets on the wall. I've seen the nights filled with blood-sport and pain.
It was now time for Curtis and Joy Division to record Factory's first ever album, Unknown Pleasures, and submit to the will of Martin Hannett.
The funny thing about Martin Hannett producing Joy Division, in a way, is he produced them a little bit like they were a boy band. I'll create you the sound, you know, this is the sound I will think you are.
Bernard and I just wanted everything to be like, "Arr, arr, arr, arr." He said, no, relax, let it flow, give it depth. And we were going, piss off, we're a punk band.
You know, they hated it. Joy Division themselves hated the sound of their first album, hated the sound of their second album, because in a way a producer had given them his idea of what Joy Division should sound like.
For the cover of their first album, catalogue number Fac 10, the band gave in-house designer Peter Saville a diagram depicting a star collapsing in space.
An album cover had to have the name of the group and the title of the album in the top third of the cover on the front, otherwise the record store wouldn't take it. But here we were at Factory, and like, nobody really cared, and nobody talked about sales because no one really imagined anyone would buy it. Shall we put Unknown Pleasures? Well, there was a kind of maybe, but that was a bit obvious. I then said, well, do we put Joy Division? And they weren't too bothered about that either. I guess what it did do was it set this product apart from the processes of business. It quite plainly didn't care whether you bought it or not.
And we could dance, 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 dance to the radio. Dance, 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 dance to the radio. Dance, 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 dance to the radio. Dance, 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 dance to the radio.
Released in June 1979, Unknown Pleasures was a big success. Factory could now think of itself as a label with a future. one that could release albums by other, more experimental acts it managed, such as A Certain Ratio.
What our mission was to be as different as possible. One year we were listening to Sex Pistols, The Damned, people like that, and 6 months later listening to Brian Eno, Kraftwerk, James Brown, you know, just stuff at the totally the other end of the spectrum. Tony allowed us to do a lot of things that we wouldn't normally do. At a meeting one day, he says, right, I want you to go and record your first album in New York. I mean, if you're 19, what are you going to say to that?
But the first to be recorded was by the Duritty Column, now with only one surviving member, Vinnie Riley. After only 3 days in the studio with Martin Hannett, the album The Return of the Duritty Column, FAC 14, was completed.
That first album, I hated it because it bore no resemblance to anything that I'd played, really. The sound was so different to the sound I had. I always used like a space echo delay thing, and I had a very warm, thick sound to the guitar, and he'd made it very thin and spiky sounding, which I hated.
Factory had another surprise in store for Vinnie. The album's cover was made of sandpaper, another nod to the Situationists.
The sandpaper cover is Tony's. It's an art gesture moment of publishing, where a book is made with a cover that destroys your other books. And Tony thought this was a nice idea for a record cover.
It will destroy all the other records in your collection from within. Oh, bollocks, you know, it's sandpaper.
The sandpaper and the glue used buckled the cover, twisted the record inside. I mean, it actually did more damage to the record inside than it did to any other record.
People complained because they bought the record and got it home and there'd be bits of glass panes, rubbish everywhere, all over the vinyl, so it was great.
He stuck the sandpaper on. Vinnie couldn't do it because of his nails.
That's not true at all. Hawkey's a cheeky bugger.
I've still got one somewhere. Still, the sandpaper's not come off. I've thought about using the sleeve, but no.
Joy Division became the look and sound of Manchester's Factory. And while Paul Morley and the new generation of NME writers championed the band, they were busy writing their greatest songs. They looked unstoppable.
When routine bites hard and ambitions are low and resentment rises high, but emotions won't grow, and we're changing our way, taking different roads. And love will tear us apart again. Love will tear us apart again.
Joy Division had recorded their second album, Closer,